Breaking news! The Miami Dolphins may be on the verge of a move that would shake up the entire NFL, one that could change the course of this season and the team's future. Tyreek Hill, the explosive wide receiver who was supposed to be the centerpiece of this offense, is once again at the center of major trade rumors. And this time, it's not just media talk. There are rumors coming from within the league, with several teams reportedly monitoring his situation closely. The timing couldn't be more dramatic. Just weeks before kickoff, and the front office's decision could define the Dolphins for years. Chris Greer, who should have been let go long ago, is still in charge, and if history tells us anything, this adds even more uncertainty to the situation. We're talking about a potential blockbuster that could set Miami up for a deep playoff run, or signal the beginning of a major rebuild. Before I explain exactly what's happening and why this moment is so crucial, make sure you've clicked like, but only if you're a true Dolphins fan who's been bleeding water and orange for decades. And if that's you, leave this in the comments. Go, Dolphins! My heart bleeds water and orange. Now, here's the reality check. Tyreek Hill's contract is a ticking time bomb for Miami's salary cap. Next season, he's staring at a mind-boggling $52.8 million cap hit. Sure, the front office could restructure, extend, or create void years to ease the blow, but Hill will be on the wrong side of 32 and has already brought plenty of drama off the field. Unless he puts up something insane, like 1,800 to 2,000 yards, there's almost nothing he can do to convince me he'll still be a Dolphin next year. If Miami cuts him before June 1st, they save $36.5 million. After June 1st, it's $39 million saved. But here's the kicker. Right now the Dolphins are already $27.5 million in the red for 2025. Moving on from Hill after this season instantly flips that to roughly $8 million in cap space before any other moves. That's a massive swing for one decision. But why wait until after the season? If they traded him now, post June 1, they'd save $14.9 million in 2024 and walk into the season with $27 million in cap space. That money could immediately be used to shore up weak spots, like cornerback. Financially, it's tempting, but the problem is simple. They've already built their game plan around Hill. Tua and Tyreek are supposed to be the 1-2 punch that drives this offense, at least for now. Trading him 3 weeks before week 1 would be like ripping the engine out of a sports car you plan to drive in a race next weekend. Still, the list of potential suitors is real. Think Kansas City, the Raiders, Chargers, Washington, and Green Bay. And honestly, if he'll really hit the market, we'd see close to a dozen teams picking up the phone. The fascinating part here is that Miami's wide receiver depth might actually make this move possible. Jalen Waddle is more than capable of becoming the WR1 of the future. Malik Washington has exploded onto the radar after just 7 snaps in the preseason opener, touching the ball 5 times and showing versatility in the slot and on gadget plays. Taj Washington also looked like a legitimate NFL receiver, pulling in a gorgeous 30-yard corner route from Zach Wilson against a zero blitz and making tough catches over the middle from Tua. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine brings size, blocking ability, and red zone value. This isn't a bare cupboard, this is a stock pantry. That depth could make the Dolphins feel bolder about moving Hill if the season starts badly. And that's the pivot point. If Miami starts hot, 5-3 or better, Tyreek likely stays for the playoff push. But if they stumble to 2-6 or 3-5 heading into late October, the trade deadline becomes a very real moment for Greer to cash out. A third-round pick is probably the best they'd get, given Hill's contract and baggage, but the cap savings and long-term flexibility might be worth it. The irony here is that the better Malik and Taj Washington look, the more expendable Hill becomes. It's not often you can say a team could trade one of the league's most electric players and still field a dangerous receiver room, but that might actually be the case in Miami right now. Because here's the thing, this isn't just a financial decision, it's a locker room decision, and the dynamics inside that building matter more than most fans realize. Tyreek Hill is a weapon on the field, no doubt, but he's also a big personality. If the Dolphins start slow, frustration will mount, and voices like his will get louder. The risk isn't just losing games, it's losing the locker room. Once that happens, the season spirals, and no amount of cap space can fix that in real time. Moving on from him mid-season could be a way to reset the culture while giving younger guys more reps, especially Malik Washington, who looks ready for a breakout. Let's not forget, Jalen Waddle is entering his prime. He's already shown he can be the guy, and putting the offense more squarely on his shoulders might actually speed up his evolution as a true WR1. Pair him with Malik in the slot, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine as a reliable outside target, and Taj Washington as a developing deep threat, and you've got a group that can still keep defensive coordinators up at night. It might not have the same fireworks as Hill, but it could be a more balanced attack, spreading the ball instead of forcing it to one star. There's also the playoff math to consider. The Dolphins' first 8 games are far easier than their brutal back half. If they're not in a a strong position by midseason, the chances of clawing back into playoff contention are slim. That's why the trade deadline is the real pressure point. In that scenario, you could flip Hill for a pick, save serious cap space, and start building for next year without completely tanking the rest of the season. If Malik Washington's role keeps growing and Taj Washington keeps proving himself, fans might not miss Hill as much as they think, especially if the move sets the team up to be a legitimate contender in 2025. And let's be honest, Chris Grier's track record in situations like this doesn't inspire a ton of confidence. This is a general manager who should have been replaced already, but here we are. That means the decision could swing based on short-term optics instead of long-term vision. If Grier's trying to save face, he might hold on to Hill even if trading him makes the most sense financially and strategically. That's where this gets dangerous. Keeping a player because you're afraid of public backlash instead of doing what's best for the future is exactly how franchises get stuck in mediocrity. At the end of the day, this all comes down to timing, leverage, and vision. The Dolphins can keep Hill for one more run and hope he delivers a game-breaking season, or they can be bold, move him early, and reshape the roster around the young talent that's already flashing. Both paths have risks, both have rewards. The question is, does Miami want to gamble on this year's potential or play the long game and set up for a stronger tomorrow? Let's get into the heart of this situation, because what's brewing behind the scenes with Tyreek Hill could be the tipping point for the Dolphins' entire season. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler lit the match by revealing that several teams are keeping a close eye on Hill's future, wondering if Miami might just make him available. Publicly, the Dolphins have said no to trade inquiries earlier this summer, but the NFL is a business, and a lot can change when contracts, egos, and money collide. Hill's deal is one of the biggest financial headaches in the league right now, $52.8 million against the cap next season. Sure, Miami could restructure, but that doesn't change the fact that he's 32 next year, with a history of off-field drama, and a front office already staring at a $27.5 million cap hole for 2025. From a pure numbers standpoint, the logic is crystal clear. Trade him now and Miami saves $14.9 million this season. Cut him before June 1st next year and save $36.5 million. That single move flips the team from negative to positive in cap space for next season, opening the door to re-sign key players and chase big free agents. But from a football perspective, this is a massive gamble. Tyreek Hill isn't just another player. He's the most dangerous weapon in this offense, the guy who can turn a game on a single play. Pulling him from the roster weeks before week 1 would mean tearing apart an offensive game plan that's been built around him all offseason. And yet, the Dolphins have quietly built a receiver group that might just survive such a loss. Jalen Waddle is already on the verge of becoming a true WR1. Malik Washington has looked electric in the preseason, touching the ball on 5 of his 7 snaps against the Bears and showing elite quickness and toughness. Taj Washington stepped up with clutch catches, including a 30-yard beauty under pressure. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine brings size, blocking, and red zone reliability. It's the kind of depth that could keep the offense dangerous even without Hill. The turning point in all of this could be the first half of the season. The Dolphins' opening 8 games are far more forgiving than the brutal stretch that follows. If Miami comes out strong, say 5-3 or better, Hill likely stays for the playoff push. But if they stumble to 2-6 or 3-5, the calculus changes entirely. That's when Grier will have to ask himself if it's smarter to ride out the year with Hill or flip him for draft capital, get out of cap trouble early, and let the younger guys take on bigger roles. And here's where the real intrigue lies. The list of potential suitors is long. Kansas City might want a reunion. The Raiders and Chargers could try to keep up in the AFC West arms race. Washington and Green Bay could see him as a one-year rental to push their offenses over the top. If he'll actually